Welcome to Return to Fitness, brought to you by Optimi Health, the platform that gives everyday athletes access to elite-level sports medicine, rehab and recovery treatment. This series brings you face-to-face with elite-level ambassadors who've navigated the toughest injuries, overcome the darkest moments and found their way back stronger than ever. This week, we're joined by Mensah Elliot, GB Master Athlete, double world champion and European champion hurdler. His journey proves that peak performance has no expiry date, but it also shows that the road back from injury requires a different kind of courage and wisdom that only comes with experience. I'm Andy, and I'm delighted to be joined today by one of our GB athlete ambassadors, world and European champion hurdler, Mensah Elliot. And interestingly enough, Mensah's just returned from competing in Albania. So first of all, Mensah, thank you so much for joining. Delighted to have you here. And secondly, more importantly, how did it go this weekend?
Oh, this weekend, it was brilliant. It's the first of my outdoor season, following an indoor season I had that finished in March with a slight hamstring injury. So I, went back just to see where my training was, and I won both the 100 and the hurdles, the 110 hurdles, for my age group.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So it was a successful weekend and worth the journey to Albania.
Oh yes, it was a 4-day break, which is good. Break away from work as well.
Fantastic. Congratulations. So interesting enough, I mean, that throws us straight into to one of the questions. It'd be really good, just for context, just to understand a little bit about your journey as a hurdler from your early days to becoming a world champion.
Right. Hurdles was never my first choice in athletics. It's because, I remember at the age of, I think it's 15, 16 at Crystal Palace indoor, seeing the men going over the hurdles and thinking that's never going to be me. Because I think I saw one of them hit the last hurdle and fell over. I said, no, that's never going to be me. And gradually, as I carried on training, I was a 100-meter sprinter. I then, was competing for my club, Blackheath Harriers. And then one day the team manager asked me to do the hurdles just to score a point for the team. And I was like, no, thank you, because I can't do the hurdles. They're too high. Thankfully, he was an assistant, and I agreed. I did a hurdles race. I ran it. Well, I say I ran it. I was doing more jumps and runs and jumps and runs in the middle. Finished last in, I think, 19.98. That's right, 19.98 seconds for the 110 hurdles. And then I thought, okay. So I thought, I've gained you a point. There you go. Goodbye. Not doing the hurdles again. A few weeks later, he's come around. Well, you did it the last time. Do you mind doing it again? And I thought, okay, just go and have some fun. So again, ran and jumped, and finished last again. And in the British League back then, you're encouraged, to do a lot of events. So there's one competition where I think I must have done about 8 events in a day. And then someone asked, why don't you try the decathlon? That's like, that includes pole vaults and all the other stuff that I've never done before. So I started doing some training, and the hurdles started improving. So from the 19-second runs down to 18 to 17. And when I went to university in 96, I went to Brunel University to study engineering, and it was full on. So I decided to drop the decathlon and focus on long jump and hurdles. That carried on, and in 1999, when I graduated, I got my first England call-up in hurdles. So so since then, I literally just carried on doing the hurdles and ditched the long jump as well.
Wow. Well, it's clearly working, especially given the result this weekend. You've had endless accolades throughout your career so far, and I'm sure there's many more to come. And one of the things that's very common amongst the community of everyday athletes that we have is that they want to have sustained performance. They want to keep performing at a high level and at the highest level possible on an ongoing basis, not just over a couple of years. It's how do they keep that going throughout a lifetime? How has your relationship with fitness evolved throughout the different stages of your career?
Well, yeah, I've always wanted to maintain some level of fitness. And now as a masters athlete, it's more of a challenge to see how far I can go before I drastically start slowing down. So every year, every year I have this goal of let's see if I can still maintain the same or similar times. Uh, I'm sure you're aware. I think in 2023, I think it was 2022, 2023, 2 years ago, I set a new masters record for the M45 indoor hurdles
Yeah.
of 791. Now, the master's height's only 3 inches lower than the senior height, but that's 791, 7.91 seconds. It's the same time I ran as a senior athlete 23 years ago
Wow.
over the senior hurdles height for the same distance. So I'm thinking if I can still cover the 60-meter distance in the same time, how much further could I go? And plus, I was injured. I'd literally just recovered from COVID and ran that time. So it's that challenge of seeing how far I can push myself and not putting a limit to my ability because of age. Because a few people think, some people think, once you get to a certain age, you need to start slowing down. But for me, it's let's see how far I can go before physically I start really slowing down. Um, the way I do it is I actually train less now than I did when I was younger.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because the body takes a lot longer to recover. And it's about understanding the body, getting the mind and the body to be in sync. So as a younger athlete, I was training 6 days a week. I have like maybe a hamstring twinge on a Monday and I'll be running again on a Thursday and I'll be fine. But now, if the hamstring twinges, it takes a few weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So it's about what do I do in between? Do I just do nothing or do I find other ways of keeping a level of fitness? I could either go in the gym, go in the swimming pool, or do loads of stretching. There was a year or two where I did loads of yoga, just to improve my mobility as well.
Yeah.
And that's kept going because, again, I'm more specific in what I do in my training, even in the gym. So I try to replicate my hurdling action in the gym with resistance, and that's really helped me maintain, my performances over the years.
Fantastic. I mean, that's really insightful. And so, on the subject of injuries, what's been your most, I would say, significant setback or injury that you've had through in your career to date, and how did you approach the recovery on that?
Oh gosh, I've had quite a few over the years. I've been hurdling for 30 years, so the panning of the knees, the back, the ankle. But the two main ones are Achilles. I've had and both feet at the insertion. So that one been going on since I would say about 2011, 2012 when I first started feeling the symptoms. And then the lower back again, especially on the left side, that's due to, again, all the poundings, all the hurdles in the gym and the normal wear and tear as you get older. But it's about managing it. So I tend to read a lot into these injuries to see how I can manage the pains and the injuries when they do occur. So I still have them. But again, as I said, it's about managing. The Achilles is an ongoing thing. I've had multiple scans on both Achilles and the lower back. I've been told it's there. It's never going to go away, but it's about managing the pain and knowing what I can do in terms of, especially during race or even training, knowing how far I can push myself and how much of the pain I can endure.
Yeah, it's really interesting because on the last webinar, we had Andy McGee, who's part of the Brownlee fitness platform, and he competes in the ultra marathons. And one of the things he was saying is there's a tendency when you get injured to rush it to get back performing as soon as possible, but that's not necessary if you want to have a sustained career and maintain a high level of sustained performance. That's not always the right approach. And I think one of the other things that I would love to have your take on is how does the mental aspect of returning to training after a setback compare to the physical challenges? Because it's not all pure physical, is it?
No, No, definitely not. I mean, in terms of masters athletics, the good thing is that there's not a set limit because it goes up in increments of 5 years. So you've got a long time to reset and get yourself ready. Whereas as a senior athlete, you start tapering off probably mid 20s to late 20s.
Yeah.
So you've got a set target to in terms of time to hit your top performances as a senior athlete. And I think that's why people rush in coming back into the injuries. But as a masters athlete, I was like, okay, if I don't make it in the M40 category, all right, when I turn 45, there's something new that I can aim, to achieve in that new category. But in terms of the mental side, now, physically, you can normally tell when you are injury free, but coming off of an injury, especially in the first week or two, and when I go back to the track, it's hard for me to give it all to then push. So it's a slow build up to just see where you are. It can get depressing sometimes, especially when injuries recur over a short period of time, and there's competitions that you could be doing that you can't do. I mean, I've missed world championships, I've missed European championships because of injuries, because of the Achilles injuries and the back injury. But it's resetting the mind, knowing that the following year or next year there'll be another one. So my goal is I always have the long term, medium term, and short term goal. I don't know if I mentioned before at the start of this webinar that I've still got a slight injury. Did I?
No, you didn't actually. But that's
Oh, right, yeah.
really
Well, yeah,
interesting.
my back's been giving me a problem. I had a hamstring injury in March.
Uh,
So I set my long-term goal for the European Championships in October. And everything I do in between, from the injury to October, it's slow build up
no,
to make sure my body is fully recovered and ready for the competition in October. Um, but yeah, it can be mentally tough, and I think setting goals is one of the things that I do to keep me going because I'm focused on October. So if anything happens between now and October, I have a mental way of trying not to dwell on what I'm going through in the present and focus on what I could get when October arrives.
yeah. So with that, because like you say, a lot of people within the community are not at your accomplished level. They're everyday athletes, but obviously they're all driven. They want to be at peak performance. And would that really be your sort of, have that goal and the micro steps? Would that be your sort of one of your key advice to athletes returning to fitness after a long break or a major setback?
Yes, definitely. That and also maintaining flexibility and mobility.
Yeah.
I started stretching every day. I give myself one day, 6 days a week. So Sundays, I decided, I give myself a break. So every morning, the first thing I do is a half hour stretching routine.
Yeah.
Uh, straight out of bed, onto the carpet, the floor, and I do it. Now, when I started 8 years ago, I I, I didn't know if I was going to get any immediate benefits from it, but I knew in the long term it would be good for me because I had my back was the injury to my lower back was so bad that there were times when after 10 minute walking I'd have to sit down for 10 minutes just to ease the pain. And when I've seen physiotherapists and it was diagnosed that it could be my glutes, they were too tight.
Yeah.
So I started doing a lot of exercises to strengthen my glute and to stretch the glute, just to open up that lower joint in the lower back. And over time, I realized that, hang on a second, I'm not getting this pain anymore. It's gradually going away. I remember in 2020, I went to Portugal. This is during the lockdown. I went to Portugal for a competition. I was walking along the street with my teammate, and I said to him, I have to stop. So I sat down at a bus stop for 10 minutes because I could not move. That's how bad it was. So doing this routine of stretching over a period of time has really, really helped. And I think, I'm not going to stop now because I've seen the benefits
Yeah.
of it. So I'll just carry on going.
That's really interesting. I mean, clearly you are incredibly competitive. It's been a large part of your success on the track to date. There's an interesting tension, a balance, isn't there, between being highly competitive, but then balancing that with listening to your body's signals and needs. And how do you do that? Because I suppose it comes back to the mental aspect again.
Yeah, I think it's taken me a long time actually to be able to get that mental strength to go through some of the injuries that I've been through and still compete. Last year, it was the World Championships, outdoor championships in September. However, in I think it was June or July, during training, I had a loud pop after coming out the blocks, and my calf had gone. I'd torn my calf muscle, the lower calf. Had a scan, and I was told I had a 2.5 centimeter tear in it.
Ooh.
After a week or two, the pain was still intense. I had another scan, and they said actually it's not just a 2.5; it's a 15.8 centimeter tear from the lower
Oh,
part of the
dear.
calf to the back of the knee.
Ooh.
Um, at that point, I was a bit down, depressed again. But as I said before, in terms of setting my focus was on the World Championships in the outdoor, which is in September. So I said, okay, this is June. I've got 3-4 months to get ready. So I started a rehab process. And, I hadn't actually run out of blocks or sprinted until the day of the week or two before I went away to compete. So I had one competition and the pain was still there, you know, but I was so determined to win at the
Yeah.
World Championships. When I went there, all the focus was literally on clearing 10 hurdles and finishing before everyone else. So, I remember in the start line, it was raining, it was heavy, windy, and all I focused on was, as I said, getting from A to B in front. And I have to take myself way back to when I competed in the Commonwealth Games trials in 2002. And that's mentally where I had to take myself and how I felt, to bring all that back into the competition. Because I wasn't the favorite to win it. I was the third favorite to win last year. And yep, I did win.
Oh, I mean, that's brilliant. I mean, I'm talking about the sort of winning ways. Do you have any of your own kind of sort of mental techniques that you use to prepare for major competitions, even the second of the race? Is there anything that you do or that you find really useful?
I try to take myself back to a happy place. And as I just said before, I try to remember my best performances, my best races. But what I did last year was actually um, the night before the race, I watched some of my videos, and then I captured the most important part of 2002, which was qualifying for the Commonwealth Games.
Wow.
And I did something that I'd never done before. I wrote to my hand, 2002 Commonwealth Games trials, and I went to bed. I literally had never done that before. I woke up that morning, I thought, I'm winning. I knew 100% that I was going to win just by doing that. Um, had a shower, did my preparation, looked at my hand again, everything had been wiped off, so I wrote it back on. 2002 Commonwealth Games qualifying, went to the competition, and all the other competitors knew about my injury. So they knew I had my calf injured. They knew I hadn't really run a decent time leading into that. But I knew the way I felt. I knew that if anyone had to beat me, they had to run their best race. But my best race was about to happen in that day. So that the way I felt when I woke up that morning, the way I felt when I lined up for the final, I just knew that everyone else would have to be at their best or better than their best to beat me.
It's just a perfect example of the power of the mind and priming and visualizing success. That's a fantastic story. In terms of sort of, looking back again at rehab and returning from injury, I mean, obviously you're highly experienced in sort of traditional in-person sports medicine. Now, as we know, the Optimi Health is a digital first platform, and there's
Yeah.
lots, the rise of digital, the rise of mobile, perhaps enables us to bring techniques and access to sort of the elite sports medicine that possibly wasn't accessible to everyday athletes before. Through things like digital and mobile platforms, how do you see that transforming how athletes manage their health and performance moving forwards?
I mean, looking back from where I came from, in 2000, early 2000, 99, in the 90s, you didn't have all these things we have now. You had to go and visit a physiotherapist or a chiropractor and to then, or read a book, to understand how to do some of the exercises, just, rehab or even prehab exercises. But now everything's in the palm of your hands. I've been following I've been using the app since last November, the Optimi app, and doing all the exercises to help with my hamstrings, the calves, the lower back. The good thing about it, it gives you a routine, and then it gives you a test at the end to see how you're recovering. And then if you pass the test, it then gives you more exercises, more challenges that you can do, which is great. That did not exist when I was a senior athlete at all. So there's a lot more opportunities now using
Yeah.
these platforms to, for busy people. Not everyone's got time to book an appointment and go to a physiotherapist, or sometimes, the cost implications as well. So it's not just for masters athletes or adults. Younger athletes can use it as well to help them with their training and their recovery.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I mean, I'm a massive believer in the concept of habit stacking, and things like digital first platforms really help with that. Where if you're watching TV, you can be stretching at the same time. When you get up and you're having a coffee, you can be doing a mobility exercise. And I think you're right. Our lives are so busy. The more you can combine it with things that you're already doing, the more likely you are. As consistency is the number one. I think sort of aspect of
Absolutely.
maintaining peak
Yeah.
performance on an ongoing basis. The other thing as well is around community, and I think there's just one more point just to touch on about communities. How important is a community of other athletes for you when you're sort of facing fitness challenges, and also when you're competing? Because on the one side of it, you're competing against people, but on the other side of it, you mentioned already that that pre-race, when you were recovering from injury, that some of your peers were aware of the injuries that you were looking to overcome. But you also lean into that community as well, I'd imagine.
Yes. I'll give you an example. As a masters athlete, when we go to competition, everyone's got another part of their life that they can touch on.
Yeah.
So, as a senior athlete, when I went to international competition, you go to the competition, you sit in the hotel, and everyone's completely focused on what they're going to do in the race, how they're going to run, But as a masters athlete, everyone's had injuries. So we talk about different aspects of our lives. So it helps to redirect the focus away from just the competition, just the athlete. We share our pains, so to speak. So the masters community for me it's actually better than the senior, as a senior when I was competing. And then everyone comes from different walks of life. So, I've competed in competitions where there are actual physiotherapists competing. They're doctors. So if I tell them, oh, I've got this injury, they say, oh yeah, you need to be looking at this exercise. So we share all these experiences. So we are we are competitive. Trust me, it is competitive, especially when you get to the final. But we're there to help each other as well. Everyone wants to see everyone excel.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the things we're looking to do is really build out the community, because I think there's nothing more empowering than people who've been at top of their game, who are accomplished athletes, who are helping everyday athletes, because some of them will be top athletes. Other ones don't want to go to that level, but they're going to value it's going to be invaluable to them. The stories, the experiences from people like yourself. And so, we really appreciate it. So given that October's your big target, what's next? What's on the immediate horizon for you?
But I've actually got another race this Saturday.
Right.
It's in Chelmsford. It's a hurdles fest. Um, I I've entered it again as another checkpoint just to see where I am. The first race normally gives me a guide as to what I know I can do. So I have I'm pretty sure I know I run faster than I did last Saturday. The British record is actually 14.64, which is my record.
Right.
The world record is 14.26 for my age group. And last weekend, just gone on Saturday, 14.78. So watch this space.
Brilliant, brilliant. I will be willing away, chipping away at those microseconds. I'm sure you can achieve it this year, Mensah. And
Yeah. So I've got some young athletes that are going as well. So I wanted to see me break a record. Fingers crossed.
I'll have to connect you with my son at some point. He's very fast actually. He's just won two. He's a sprinter. He's not a hurdler, but he's a 100 sprinter. But maybe
It's never too late to change.
Yeah, exactly. He keeps getting asked to do the hurdles because he does high jump as well. So yeah.
All right.
So yeah, at some point I'll get him to watch this and maybe take on board some tips. But listen, it's been a delight spending time with you. Massive congratulations again on your
Thank you.
double gold from the weekend.
I'll flash the goals for you.
That's brilliant. Congratulations. Really, really pleased for you. And yeah, look forward to chatting to you again some point very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy.